So then after that, what happened was, while I was working in jewelry, I used to do all the photo shoots for the catalogs for the jewelry pieces. And I was really into, presenting it quite well within the window and within the catalogs for sale. So what happened was at that point, a sort of a job fell into my lap, which was something called visual merchandising and store design. Does anyone have any idea what that means? Visual merchandising and store design? Any ideas? Any guesses on what that could mean? You can just put it in the chat box if you feel like. So let's see what everyone has said. Has anyone got any feedback on what visual mannequins? Okay, I've heard somebody say it's about mannequins. Yeah, fair point. That is shop window design, pop-up stores, window dressing. Yeah, I think you're covering a lot of it. Advertising, yeah, there is a bit of advertising as well and campaigns. Propaganda, yeah, could be. So you're trying to get people to buy products essentially. So, okay, let me explain what visual merchandising is. So to shorten it out, visual merchandising and store design, you can sort of abbreviate it to VMSD. So this is a very, very, very interesting area of work. And I landed this job in this company called JG, which had the franchisee for Disney clothing in India. So they were setting up a lot of the Disney stores in India to sell Disney clothing, accessories, shoes, hats, belts, you name it, for kids, primarily aimed at children. And so the thing is, visual merchandising and store design is a very sort of interesting area because it has saliently 4 sections. One is visual merchandising, which is showcasing whatever product you have to its maximum, to entice people to actually buy the product once they enter the shop, in a physical shop. So that's visual merchandising, which is visually showcasing your product. Then you have something called fashion styling. Now, what is fashion styling? It's sort of, suppose you have a mannequin, you're dressing the mannequin up. You can't just throw the clothes on. You have to make it look really nice. You have to make it look like there's a bit of movement. The mannequins need to look a little alive, not sort of just a doll. So that's called fashion styling, and that carries on to photo shoots as well. So when people are fashion stylists, it's a proper role here. You could be a fashion stylist where you're actually going to photo shoots, you're styling your garments on a particular model. So it looks like there is movement and it looks good. It just sort of, makes the product, showcases the product perfectly. There's also store design. Now, store design is a broad sort of area, sphere, where you normally store designers would liaise with the architects. And right from the get-go, they would liaise with the architect and sort of design how you walk through the store, where the products are going to be sitting, where the lighting is going to be, where do you have your windows, where do you have your plinths, where you put your mannequins on to display the products, and suppose it's it could be something like the M&M store, for example. What kind of colors you would have inside the store. Is it going to reflect or contrast with the products themselves? How would people walk through? How you would design it? So that's all store design. And that plays a very, very big part in how one perceives the excitement in a store. Because when I joined this company, Indian retail was just taking off. Everyone wanted the swanky American stores, because it was fairly shop at the corner, kind of stores till that point. But all the sort of fancy brands were coming in, the foreign brands were coming in. The local brands wanted to sort of have a experiential, more of an experience, a store experience, rather than just showcasing the product. So that's where store design came into the picture. Now, there's a 4th area, which is curating. Now, curating is part of VMSD, where you actually, things like exhibitions, if you're a curator at a museum, you would, you maybe would have probably pursued art history, but if you haven't, this is the, when you do product design, it's a nice area to get into where you're actually designing the exhibit space and how people walk through it. So it's part of visual merchandising and store design. So curating exhibit designers are also considered part of this sphere. Now, now all your guesses were right. So we are looking at window displays, for example. So what is the first port of call? When you're walking past the store, you see the window and you're immediately drawn to it. So it's sort of showcasing the product, you're enticed, you're tempted to go in, right? You can't just walk past because it's exciting. The window looks great. When you're walking past Selfridges here, or when you're walking past Harrods, or, even Whole Foods, you're looking at something in the window and you're saying, oh, this product looks really good. Oh, I wish I could see it. Let me go in. So that's the window display. So it's the first, what do you call it? The first thing that you see before you enter the shop to sort of entice you in. So the windows have got to look great, so that's part of it. And then you have the shop interiors, obviously, and you have seasonal sort of, Valentine's Day, you would have a Valentine's Day window. Christmas, you would have Christmas styling. You would have Christmas decorations in the store, and so it's a very exciting space to get into. And I'll tell you a bit more about how you can get into it. So while I was working as a head of VMSD at Disney, I supervised the launch of another clothing collection called MTV Clothing. So MTV was coming out with a clothing range. MTV, the music television, the channel. And I designed and executed all their stores through India. And it was a very exciting time because it was fairly young, cutting edge brand. They had given a broad, sort of, they said you could do whatever you want, really. So it was very exciting. And we sort of designed, a lot of their stores and almost 100 plus window displays between Disney and MTV. And then I launched my own company. So I left my VMSD role and I launched my own company called Hands Design, which focused purely on visual merchandising and store design. And I was in charge of implementing all Levi's, the jeans brand, across all of India. So I was in charge of all the visual merchandising and store design across all their stores through India. So I worked primarily with Levi's and another brand called Titan, which is a watch brand. And so it's a really exciting sort of thing. And it's, the scale is much bigger. It's quite exciting overall, the space. So it's kind of the beating heart of retail, I would say, VMSD. Now, the thing is, what I'm, after VMSD, I took a bit of a break. So here's where you can study. So you look at the screen again. You can study at various locations. I can send you more details across through Jennifer again, if you want to know a little bit more about how to get into visual merchandising and store design. Yeah.